Go ahead and clap. No.
It was gonna be pattern. Clap, clap, clap. You clap, I clap, you clap.
No.
Yeah.
You cannot help yourself. You cannot help yourself.
No,
Nasty
I can't.
woman. Hey everyone, this is Andre and Soli. We are Peace, Love, and Chocolate.
We are.
This is the podcast.
I'm peace, he's love, and together we make chocolate. Anyways.
And today we are always, not just today, we are always bringing back the family and bringing back traditional values. And today our topic is
stay-at-home dads.
that was wow.
This is another topic that we were asked to talk about, like last week's episode was, and we kind of hit a little bit on this topic in our episode, Who Brings the Bacon? And that is our second episode of this podcast, if you want to listen to that. But that one was...
But don't listen right now.
Yeah, listen after you listen to this one. But that one was a little bit more like along the lines of the 50-50 provider relationships. And we kind of went a little bit more into... We spoke a little bit on like the science behind why men tend to be more of that provider. And but today we're talking about stay-at-home dads and what we think of stay-at-home dads. So I'm just gonna tell y'all, there are lots of reasons other than just a dad wants to stay at home with the kids as to why they are stay-at-home dads. And the number of stay-at-home dads, I don't know how many times I'm going to say that in this episode. The number of stay-at-home dads has increased significantly since, back in ever. Like, yeah. And
back in the olden days.
Yeah, so not all of them are stay-at-home dads just because they want to stay at home with the kids. Sometimes they end up staying home because they're out of work. Maybe they're in school pursuing college or degrees. Maybe they're retired from employment and are watching the kids. Maybe they have a home office, anyways, we'll get to. Maybe they have a home office / telecommuting, or for this idea of role reversal, like dad moms, quote unquote, equal parenting. So those are some reasons why dads would choose to stay at home. And do you have any thoughts on that yet?
No,
all right.
not yet.
So I was reading this article. I read a lot of articles about stay-at-home dads in preparation for this. And a lot of them, one thing that I noticed was that all of them felt like either something was missing, or they all felt like they had like some sort of struggle at some point with staying home. And so that's something that I thought was really interesting. And the reasons
the dads did?
Yeah, and the reason that they claim to have those struggles, were different depending on who wrote the article. Like I read one where the guy was like, well, because of societal norms, this is awkward. One felt like, he enjoyed being a stay-at-home dad, but he didn't like he wanted to work. He didn't like the fact that he wasn't bringing in money. One guy was a stay-at-home dad, but he wanted to be able to work, but he couldn't work because he couldn't go out and work because he had physical ailments that prevented him from being able to do so. And I also read another really interesting article that before we share our thoughts, I want to kind of share a couple of different perspectives on this too. So I saw this article that somebody in the New York Times wrote, and it said that men should not be stay-at-home dads in this
the New York Times. What?
Yes, but their reasoning was the same exact reasoning as to why women shouldn't be stay-at-home moms.
Oh.
So basically, they don't want
Anyone to
nobody
stay at
raising
home.
the kids.
They want the state to raise a home.
Yeah. So they said, so
I
according...
mean, to raise the kids.
Yeah. Well, yeah. According to Times, that mention it stay at home because, for the same reasons, is because when you're on one income, you have a higher risk of economic collapse. You know, if one person loses their job, you have no income. If one person is at home and the other works. So you also have this risk of making less money. It even happens with dads who like go on parental leave or stop to work for a period of time. Over the course of the year, if that's not a paid leave, then they end up making less money than if they had stayed there the whole time, of course. So there's that risk. And then when you it says that dads who left work for even a short period of time to cater to domestic matters earned lower evaluations and more negative performance ratings at work than women who opted out. That is very interesting.
Can you repeat that, please?
It says dads who left work for even a short period of time to cater to domestic matters earned lower evaluations and more negative performance ratings at work than women who opted out.
That means that women are better, right?
Well, that means women probably could have handled the domestic affairs better than...
No, it means that women are better.
In general, period?
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, that's why.
No, just kidding.
And then it also, of course...
But that's what most people would think, I think. When people listen to stuff that says that, they would immediately
because women can handle it better.
Yeah, immediately people would just think, oh, it's just because women are better, literally better at everything, you know? Yeah. And you hear that a lot. If you go watch some of the videos where, you know, there's people go out in the street and talk to random people in the street, and they say, hey, what do you think women can do better than men? You know, what do you think men can do better than women? When it comes to the question of what can women do better than men, everyone's like everything, literally everything. I can't think of like
one
something
thing.
Yeah. And then for men, it's like nothing. Like
crickets.
I can't think of anything that a man is better than a woman. So it's just something I think is important to point out.
And they also said that stay-at-home dads can add stress to the wife too, because, you know, the wife is the only one bringing in the money, so it's like stressful, and it's stressful to think like if she loses her job, things like that.
I wonder if they would have said that in the inverse. You know, like why should a woman not stay home? Because it's too much stress on the man to bring money.
Yeah, well.
Because I don't think that would have been the case.
No.
By the way, why is your tablet black and mine is white?
Because it's on the black mode.
Because you're racist and I'm not. Oh, actually, I'm the racist one because mine is white.
So it says, and this was the
By
quote.
the way, we like to joke around like that. Please don't get offended.
Yeah. This was a quote from that same article. She or she said, I can't remember if there's a book.
Just go by Shim.
He, him, her, they, them, they, zai. So
Zygote.
When you consider the potential risks of not generating any money as a partner, however, earning an income is simply necessary. Not to mention, keeping your toe in the workforce is still a way to explore and satisfy your needs that go beyond that of super mom or dad. So when I read this article, the whole gist of the article was like, you have to make more money. Like it's scary if one person doesn't work. Like you need two people to work. You have to have more money, more money. It's like, what about the kids? The kids are just sitting there being raised by you're dishing out tons of money for childcare and schools and pre-Ks where the kids are getting indoctrinated oftentimes.
Oftentimes. 99.999% of the time. Did you read this quote already?
I didn't, but I
want to read it.
All right, you
so
read
it says by the New York Times. I'm guessing this is what they're saying that you should do. This is what you should do.
This was a separate article, by the way, that I found
this is not the same
this
one.
quote in. But it was
so this
very
is what they're saying. Equals and peers. They would work equal hours, spend equal time with their children, take equal responsibility for their home. Neither would be the keeper of the mental to-do lists. Neither of their careers would take precedence. Both would be equally likely to plan a birthday party or know that the car needs oil, or miss work for a sick child, or remember, without prompting, to stop at the store for diapers and milk. They understood that this would mean recalibrating their career ambitions and probably their income, but what they gained, they believed, would be more valuable than what they lost. Okay, so this is very interesting because when you read that, it's just feminine. Is it not? When you read that, it's such a feminine way to look at the world. Like you can think you can almost feel the angst in the woman writing this.
Yeah.
Like you can feel especially the part where she says, remember, both would be equally likely to remember without prompting to stop at a store for diapers and milk. It's like without prompting. I don't have to ask them. Like I don't want to have to ask him what to do. Like he should already know that there's stuff like, the dishes need to be done. Like I hear all the time, and there's so much angst and so much resentment in that, and you can hear it. And I think this is what their solution is. What their solution is, like, everyone do everything equally, like both men and women, husbands and wives, do everything equally. Like do not do anything that would be closer to a traditional way of living. Everything must be equal, even if it's a proven fact that women are different than men, and that women are better at some things that men are better at, because naturally God made them to be that way, and men are better than women at certain things, and God made them to be that way. One of those is leading. So if there's a man that is the leader, if he is a strong man, a good man of God that is the leader, he's going to do it way better than any woman ever could. And that's just the way that God designed it. So when you put these things to be equal, it doesn't work. And one thing that I tell Soli all the time, or I have told Soli many times, is we are not equal. And at first Soli was like, what?
What?
We are not equal? I'm like, yeah, we're not equal. And she's like, but how come, like, you can do this and I can't do that? I'm like, because we're not equal. I'm a man and you're the woman. So that's the way it works. And of course, she didn't like it at the time, or in that instance, but that's part of being a man, saying, no, this is the way things are. And it doesn't matter, because then after she understands that the more that you step into your role as a man, the more that the wife steps into the role as a woman, the more fulfilled you will be. Both parties will be more fulfilled. But if you think that you have to play by these rules where everything is equal, like you wash 2 dishes, then the other person must wash 2 dishes. You make $4,000, the other person must make $4,000. You hold the baby for 5 minutes, the other person must hold the baby for 5 minutes. Time them. Make sure you time them. 5 minutes.
It's
5
really
minutes.
an impossible utopia.
It's not even a utopia. It sounds like hell to me.
It's like a dystopia.
Yeah.
It's this whole push for equality is so impossible, and it goes against our nature as human beings. I get it, like you want everybody to be treated fair and like respectable, but this push of like women have to go out and do the same things that men do, and men should come into the women's sphere of doing things, and it's like when we talk about gender like roles on this podcast, or like not gender roles but like gender differences, we mean it. Like when we say men and women are different, we're not talking about women just happen to be more feminine than they are masculine. No, we mean men are masculine, women are feminine, and that's how it should be.
Especially, this is something that I thought about the other day, especially when it comes out the natural order. So the way that God designed things, if you step into the way that God designed you, you're going to figure out that, like I see a lot of women is like, oh, I'm just a tomboy, and I used to think, what about all the women that are tomboys that are more masculine than men? That's not normal. That's not natural. And there's something there that is missing, whether it's the leadership of the dad, or it's the overbearing nature of the the lack of leadership from the father, or the overbearing nature of the mother. One of those two things is hitting a play into you being a tomboy, or you not liking feminine things, not liking babies, for example. All those things. And for the man, be like, oh, I like to let my wife take care of things. That's not normal. That's not natural. That's not a natural way to deal with life. And so when that stuff happens, it's because somewhere along the way you didn't get the good example. You didn't, someone like your parents didn't set the good example for you. And so now you think it's normal to be this way. You know, a lot of women nowadays are like, oh, I don't cook. I don't like cooking. I don't do this. I don't clean. I don't do whatever. That's not a normal thing to be. It's like when a man says like, I don't like working. It's like, well, that's not a normal thing to be. It's like, oh, I would rather not work. I'd rather her work. I've heard a lot of guys be like, well, I want her things to be equal. Like I want her to pay like her half, and like that's the way it should be. I'm like, you realize that's not normal. Like there's, even if you subscribe to society's norms, there is just something in you as a guy that is like, well,
and
doesn't
that's what
want
I said.
to allow
Every
that.
single one of these articles that I read, the dads struggled. They even though they like put on this good front, like, oh, we had a great day. I have, you know, my wife pumped, so I was able to like give the baby bottles, and we got to go out and explore. But
nowadays it's formula.
yeah. But it's just, there's something in a man that is like, this is abnormal. And I would say it's the same thing for a woman too. Basically the majority of women that I know, even women that I love, that I would consider, you know, followers of Christ, everything like that, every single one of them struggles. Even if they're like, oh, I have this career, oh, I'm out there working, oh, I'm out there hustling, they struggle when it comes to their home and their family and their children, because they're spending the majority of their time away from their home, where they're not able to then take care of their household and take care of their children. And one of the problems with this stay-at-home dad thing is that children need their mothers in a way that's different than their fathers. And even though our baby is not even... Wait, what is today's date? Wait.
No, not yet. I think it's 2 days from now.
Oh, he's not even actually 3 months old yet. And it's so apparent. Like, there's only so much Andre can do at this point. And that doesn't mean that he's not involved in Carlos's life and that he doesn't love to spend time with him and that he's looking forward to, you know, teaching him and showing him how to be a man and different things like that. But there's just, the character of a woman is just different, like innately different. That's why she's the one that grows the life inside of her and breastfeeds the baby. And, you know, it's, the children are, when they're young and growing into, you know, young, you know, adolescents and adults, whatever, they're supposed to be like connected to the mother in that way. Does that make sense?
Yes, and that's far, in a way, the way that it's supposed to be, where, I mean, when they're 2 to 5 years old, the children need the mom way more than they need the dad. The dad is literally just there. Like, you know, the moms need the fathers at that point in time. I think moms, like if there's a wife with children, she needs her husband more than the children need the father when they're that age. In the way that, because she needs that security, you know, and I'm talking about that pillar of security and saying like, oh, we're good, you know, like I can provide for you, I'm going to protect you, the family's good taken care of. She can relax, she can take care of the kids, she can take care of the home. That's the way it's supposed to be. But if you take something like that and then just randomly implement the dad in there, the dad becomes a woman. The dad becomes the one who's like feeding the baby all the time, changing the baby all the time, taking care of the home. That is not a natural way to be. And I'm telling you guys, as a man, even if you don't agree, there is something in you. There's literally something in you that is like, oh, like uneasy, like something not right about this. It's just something not right, you know? And you should feel that and you should listen to that, because that's the Holy Spirit trying to guide you in the correct way.
And it also happens too when a woman works, there's still that same thing, because she can't do everything when she gets home from work. So he's gone working 8+ hours a day. She's gone working 8+ hours a day. They come home. The kids still need their mother in that different way than they need their father. And I've read a lot of articles that are like, that talk about like splitting time and like being equal and like, well, even though women are working today and both people in the household work, women are still taking on the majority of domestic affairs. And it's like, it's not because the dad is just lazy, whatever, but it's just natural for a woman to gravitate towards doing those things. And it's also more of a burden on the man when he's working, the wife works, and now he has to do all the things that the wife should be doing,
that the wife cares more about than the man does. And you're literally beating up your own masculinity by allowing society to beat you into that role of a woman as a man. You're allowing the world to beat into you the unnatural way to be, and that's why there's so many men that are committing suicide, and that's why there's so many men that are just going nuts, and same with women. Why do you think there are so many women that are suffering with anxiety, that are suffering with depression? It's skyrocketed the past few decades. And the reason for that is because we've stepped away from our roles. We've stepped away completely, and now we think that this redefined way to live, this equal, you're my equal in everything, equity. No, we are not. And you have to stop thinking that. Stop thinking that you are equals. You're not. An equal means 1 equals 1. It means that they're the same. It's equal, okay? We are not the same. So you have to stop thinking about that. And that's something different when people talk about value, because people say, oh, well, that means that, a man is better than women. Yeah, they are in certain areas. The same way that women are better in certain areas, because we're just different and we work to get better together as family. It's like the baby is probably better at cooing and being cute than either of us two, okay? We are not equal with the baby. That's his role, and he does it very well.
He does. He kills it.
So that's what I'm saying. How can we expect to be the same and to take on the roles of a baby, and take on the roles of a child? It's the same way when a woman tries to take on the roles of a man or the man of a woman. It's emasculating, and it's belittling you. Yeah,
it just does not. It's not the best, Paul wrote in the Bible, he said, everything is permissible, but not everything is beneficial. And stay-at-home dads, I don't think they're beneficial. At least, if I get it, if they lost their job and they're trying to find a new job and what are you going to do? You don't have anywhere to go except you're at home applying, whatever. But it just is not the ideal scenario.
Yeah. And I think a lot of men are waiting nowadays, they're treating their wives as moms to take care of them. And so financially they're taking care of them, they cook for them. And so they're like, I'm good here, and that taps into that lazy part that where you're like, oh, I'm good. I don't have to do anything. If I don't have to work, if I don't have to, work around the house, or sometimes they prefer to do is work around the house because it's better than going outside, right? So it taps into the lazy side of men a lot of times. And then that's why they develop all this depression and all this. And just a little side note, I was actually watching this video today about this guy who was talking about how he completely is letting go of all the things that are pleasurable in his life because he realized that he was seeking pleasure. And he's talking about things that are that most people enjoy, right? Like eating junk food, like watching Netflix, just playing video games, things like that. And he said, I realized that, when I tell people that I'm letting go of these things, people tell me, how could you? You're not going to enjoy life. Just live a little, enjoy your life. And he's saying, okay, all these things have a negative correlation with happiness. It's been studied that the longer you stay playing video games, the longer you stay on your phone, the longer you stay watching Netflix all day, the longer you stay, eating junk food, negatively impacts your happiness and your enjoyment, fulfillment in life. So he's like, what's the point then of doing it? If it's going to make me unhappier and it's not going to get me anywhere. If you, let's say you watch Netflix and you're doing all these things, at the end of the week, you didn't accomplish anything. And if you had not done all that, you would have accomplished something. And then now you feel good about yourself and fulfilled and happy because you say, you know what, I accomplished this, okay? So the way I'm relating that to this is that when you let go, it seems like it's like a bad thing because it's like, well, that means we're going to have less money. You know, like if a woman works out and maybe the guy can stay at home and she makes more money, maybe like that means we're going to have less money. You know, that could be a drawback. Another drawback could be, what if the dad, you know, is can't get a good job because he's injured or something, or he's disabled. He can't get a normal job. Like what's going on there? You know, that's another drawback. But you're looking at it with the lens of the world. You're not looking at it with the lens of Christ.
Yeah.
And so what happens then is that the more you sit down and the more you think about things with those lens, with the wrong lens, you're going to view it as a detriment to your life. When in reality, like I said, if you, like the guy said, the examples, if you get rid of the stuff that is just, you know, crap in your life, you actually have a better life. Because at the end of 2 years, 5 years, you can say, oh, I look back, I made something of myself. You know, I worked at this, I worked at that. And now I'm somewhere where I don't have to be. It's the same way, you know, as a man, you get rid of this stuff, of this thinking, and you get into the way that God designed it, and then life is a lot more blissful.
Yeah. Working is just it's fundamental to a man's identity. And I think that's something that I saw even with the stay-at-home dads, you know, in those articles. Like I said, even if they were like, I love being a stay-at-home dad and it's the best thing ever, but they still wanted to work. And one guy could only be at peace with his staying at home because his paternity leave, it was paid. So he felt like, okay, at least, you know, I'm still getting paid. I'm still making some income for the family. And then I thought this was really interesting. So this guy, Scott Meltzer, I don't know how you say it. He wrote this book about masculinity. And in it, he said, some of my research has examined how men who are in relationships with women are much more likely to engage in intimate partner violence when they are failed breadwinners and also when they're doing what some might call women's work, quote unquote. When their jobs are not providing them with a sense of masculine identity and status, they're more likely to engage in competitive masculinity or compensatory violence and use violence against women and partners to reassert their masculinity.
Okay, before you say anything about that, I want to say something and I want to ask you something.
Oh.
So that when the world reads that, what the world is going to say about that is that means that men can't handle strong women. You know, if men are stepping into women's roles and are acting violently, that means that men just can't handle strong women, and so we need to teach men to handle strong women. What do you say to that?
Well, I also think it's saying like we have to show men that it's okay for them to be in these women's roles, and it's not. It just goes to show how. So
what would you say to someone that says that? Oh, this means that we must teach men that it's okay, and to be able to accept and embrace strong women. What do you say to that?
Well, on the spot. to say that it's okay to.
Like if someone read that and you read that to them, and they're like, yeah, well, that's why we have to teach men to be okay with strong women and to embrace strong women.
Well, that's not strong. That's weak. First of all, that's weak on the man's part. That's weak on the woman's part for choosing a weak man that is violent towards her. And you're not a stronger woman for working, and you're not stronger for going out there and hustling and
Yeah, well, that's a good point because when people, that's a good correlation then there that you made about if a man does that, it means that he's weak because he's trying to exert his authority by using violence. At that point, you've lost all authority. There's no authority there. And so that's the only thing that a man can have over the woman at that point is his strength, like his physical strength. So he's like, I'm going to use that to exert my authority. That's the only way he has. So that's why, he is a weak man because, when you are acting out of anger in that way, you're just showing weakness. And I told Soli, and I think I've told other people too, that I never think about Soli in a way that I'm like, oh, I'm afraid that she's going to do this, or I'm afraid that she's going to do that. Like, I'm afraid, you know how men sometimes think like, oh, I'm scared that she's going to, she'll leave, or I'm scared that she's going to like want to, I don't know, beat me.
She'll just change.
Yeah, or she'll change, or she'll divorce me and she's going to take all my stuff.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. I'm like, that's such a beta male.
You should be afraid.
That's such a beta male type of thinking, Like if you go into a marriage, or if you are married and you're thinking that about your wife, that's such a beta male thing.
Why would you marry somebody that you, anyways?
Yeah, so that's the same thing that's happening here, and you're right that it doesn't mean that you're stronger as a woman if you go out. It means you're dumber, or not enlightened yet, not awake yet, because you haven't realized that the most fulfilling thing you can do, and most moms will agree, is be with your children and take care of your children.
I've not met. It doesn't even happen with men, but you go out in public with the baby, and women are like, "Oh, it's the best. Oh, like motherhood is just amazing. Like, oh, it's. I remember when my kids were that little. It was heaven." Men don't do that, and I think that's part of that fundamental difference in that realization that children are a blessing and blessings.
Yep. So
I read the other thing about these men, these stay-at-home dads that I saw was they always were like kind of talking about the whole like equality thing and like, gender stuff. And let me see. And
okay, you good?
Yes. Sorry, I'm looking at my notes. So these people were talking about how staying at home and being at home is just is
you're having such a hard time. You've been at this for 2 minutes.
That domestic labor should be paid labor.
Oh,
because it is just as much work, quote unquote, as working outside.
Oh yeah, that's true. I've heard
the
that.
House.
Yeah, they should pay. That's the same thing with like maternity leave. Really, it's like you're getting paid to go back home and do nothing.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
Yeah, for paternity leave?
No, for maternity. Yeah, paternity leave and maternity leave. Like,
yeah,
you're getting paid to just go home and take care of your child, which in one sense I get, because it's like, oh, if we agree that taking care of the family is important, well then just stay home the whole time.
Yeah, well that was the thing. Like,
and I know that's controversial because everyone's like, well, that's a good thing. I know, but the best thing is the best thing. The best thing is for the woman to just stay home with the children.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the never mind. I won't say that example.
Okay. Are you gonna read this? Or you want me to read this?
You can read it.
You wanted to read it? All right. One leading advocate.
Actually, you don't have to.
Okay.
You don't have to. But
So you want to read this last part?
Yeah, the simple distinction between the sexes implies a number of important things. For instance, it's not just a biological accident that women are the ones physically equipped with the means of conceiving, developing, and sustaining new life. And this distinction between male and female functions doesn't end with conception, birth, and infancy. It's a thread that runs through the entire parenting journey.
Yep.
And that's the problem with the whole men and women are equal, so the guy can just do the woman's job and the woman can just do the guy's job. It doesn't matter, tomato. But it's failing it's a failure to recognize the difference in genders. And I'm trying to figure out, if men and women are different, there are lots of people that are willing to acknowledge. I mean, there's lots of people that are like the tomato, agenderal, no genders. Anyways, but there are still people that are like, yes, there's a difference. So I'm trying to figure out where is that line? Where is the difference to people that have that line of thinking men and women can do all the same things that each other can do, because it doesn't just stop at like this was saying, it doesn't just stop at
the ability to birth a human.
Reproductive systems. It's so much more than that. It's, first of all, it's innate in how God created us. But if it was just, he has a little dingling thingy and I have breast
not a
disses,
dingling thingy.
Yeah. Then it's like, okay, well, then what is the point of any, if it just is at the physical level, then the majority of things we do don't make sense. And I know that's actually what a lot of people are arguing for. It doesn't really matter. But that's just not correct.
That's why society, I don't understand, people don't understand the link between depression, anxiety, drug abuse, and the total eradication of the family. People are like, no, men and women are totally the same. A man could be a man could birth a child, and a woman can get a girl pregnant, and all these things about gender that don't make sense at all, and they're just getting rid of the father or the families, and it's okay, it doesn't matter, have the village raise the child because it takes a village, which is totally wrong, by the way. It does not take a village, it takes a mother and father. And then all these things that they're trying to mess up, literally the vast majority, if not all, of these same people have deep depression and anxiety and struggle with drug abuse, alcohol abuse.
Well, it's because of the patriarchy, Andre.
And that's what I'm saying. That link, that link. How come me as a patriarch, I live a very happy, fulfilled, joyful life, but yet people that are living these lives live a messed up lives that have no peace, that have no joy in their lives, except for when they destruct or when they do hedonistic things. What's the point, right? At least acknowledge that the link between these things ends in destruction. So that's why I think it's best to just keep it, the way that God intended it for it to do. I mean, when you just read Genesis, if you go ahead and read Genesis, and you'll figure out what things, how God designed things. Go ahead and read Genesis. Literally go open up your Bible, read the first 5 chapters of Genesis, and you'll understand what is going on.
I wanted to say one more thing about this. What we were talking about before we started the podcast was that this idea of work has become so glamorized, and work is a very good thing. Everybody should work hard, even if you don't have a job to go off to. In my home, I need to be a hard worker. But we are so drawn to this idea of having, this big dream and going off and having maybe this career, or going off and traveling and doing, work and helping people, and those things can be good, I guess. But what I'm saying is that work at its very basic level is supposed to be a means in which you can provide for yourself.
We're getting to 40 minutes.
It's supposed to be how you provide for yourself. And so it's good. It's a good thing to have a job where, you know, you're helping people, you're making a difference. That's like amazing. But even if you don't have that, that's okay. But the reason why I say that is because a lot of women want to work because they have like that big like dream, that big like, I'm gonna go out and do this and I'm gonna go out and do that, and like the husband, he can stay at home while you're off pursuing your career and your
podcast,
calling.
like a why women shouldn't pursue careers. We should do one like that.
Yeah. But you know,
we get into 42 minutes.
Andres, okay.
No, we gotta make more.
So just in saying that, it's like, it doesn't matter. Like the husband is supposed to provide for his family, whether he goes and works at a fast food restaurant or whether he starts nonprofit and helps everybody in the whole world. And I think if we take away that idea of like the glamorization of work, it can also help make more sense
as to why women should stay home.
Yeah.
But yeah, if this episode is about stay-at-home dads, don't do that junk. That's just junk. That's what I want to end with.
And encourage your wives to stay home and take care of your children.
Don't encourage. Tell her.
Yeah.
Just tell her, listen, it's not right for you to go because you have to take care of the home. I'll take care of the finances. That's my job. If you can help here and there, I'll give you stuff to do here and there if you have time. But right now, you're going to have your hands full with the kids and we're taking care of the home. So I want you to stay home. Done and over.
Yep. Yep.
Wow. Don't do that junk. Anyways. Thank you so much for listening and watching. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure to like, to share this, to make a comment down below. Any other topics, we are definitely going to read the comments, and we read all of the comments. Not many so far, but
shout out.
But that we need more comments. and if you're listening to this on a different platform, make sure you share that platform. We would love to hear from you as well. Follow us on Andre and Soli at Andre and Soli on Instagram. We're also on Facebook. And we got our own Instagrams at Andre O Post and at Andre O Post and at Soli Oli. Thank you so much for being here. We are Andre and Soli with Peace, Love, and Chocolates, bringing back the family, bringing back traditional values, and no Carlos to win today, but next time. All right, see you guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.